So what I'm going to do today is I'm talking about useful tips. So this is just a variety of different things that I've found that are quite helpful,
Mm.
and they tend to make your life a bit easier as far as being able to navigate around course sales and make you be able to basically see things a little bit simpler, and hopefully reduce the complexity of how you work.
Very good.
So. So I'll just start that now. Okay, so the contents of what I'm going to be covering, the topics, I'm going to talk about using summary and name on forms. And what this allows you to do is allows you to flexibly include items in the lists, the contact list and the document list in particular, but also the topics list as well with the outcomes that you give to the students. I'm going to talk about record naming conventions. So this is some recommendations we have around keeping naming conventions consistent so that you can easily recognize what rule is related to what step, or when you're creating your course modules and your course categories and your course masters, all those sorts of things. A lot of us to do with linking different items together, and if we can keep a consistent naming convention, things are so much easier basically for us. I'm going to talk about using the status flag to update document steps. I'm also going to talk about some browser tips, and we mentioned some of those yesterday, namely using tabs, using a control click mechanism, which allows you to open up new tabs and be able to manage your data and fiddle around between different tabs easier. You look like a real pro once you've got that all working. Also going to talk about the context-sensitive ribbon. Now that sounds a bit weird, but basically what it means is the menu system knows where you are, and there are some things you can immediately do, like when you're editing a course date, you can immediately edit the course description of that course date very easily because the context-sensitive ribbon knows where you are. So it's sort of spying on you and goes, you're editing that document, therefore you must want to edit that particular course description or that particular course date. And also, I'm going to show you a configuration of how to have fields only display when a particular course category is displayed, which is pretty cool. So because you guys are going to be going to the next upgraded license, you're going to have access to all of these things and more, which is pretty exciting. Okay, so summary and name. So we've talked about this a little bit before when we talked about registration lists, but basically this allows you to include information on the different lists that we've got around course sales. So I'm just going to set up the let's see if I want to set up the ability to give you a spotlight. Here we go. I'm going to try the arrow today, see how that works. Oh, that's pretty boring. Just a white arrow. It's not very exciting. There you go. That's a bit better. A little bit of a red dot to follow. Okay, so when checked on field forms, these values appear in useful places. So these values being the values from the forms, such as a value appearing on a document list, for instance. The order of the field values, so see down here, we're looking at these here. When we're looking at this outcome, this list of topics, we've got the outcomes or the information from the forms displayed here. You can see here we've got competency achieved pass. That's what's been selected for that particular topic or unit of competency. And we can also see here someone selected the start date of the activity and the end date of the activity. Now, when it says the order of field values is based on the field layout definition on the form, that means that where these appear, that is to say that appears first and that appears second, that is defined on the form. And this is the document topics form in this particular case. So this document topics form is defined by having this field first and then this field. And what's more is I know that right beside this field in the document topic form, there's also the activity end date field as well on the same line. And that's shown here by the fact that it's appearing on the same line within this list of topics. Okay, so adjusting the form and moving those fields around will actually adjust where they appear here in the list of document topics.
Does this dates come from the course master?
This is defined on the course master. Yes, the document topic form is defined on the course master. That's right. Yep. So if you want to go and find out what it is, that's where you go and you can edit it. It's usually one form that's used throughout the whole site, but you could have different document topic forms per course master if you wanted to. But usually it's the same one because that's what gathers the eventness data. If the date is included, then the field name prefixes the value. So you can see here, we've got the date here. So in this case, we've actually got the name of the field just before it, because a date just by itself is not going to mean too much, right? It's pretty innocuous, just could be any date at all. So the good thing is we have the name of the field just before the date. We don't have the name of the field here. That is to say, this is the outcome, and that's because it's sort of self-explanatory because we've got the information right there in front of us, so we hope we can work that out. And you can see if no details are available, that means nothing is entered in the form. So in this case, where it says no details available, nothing has been entered into the form there. Okay. Just making sure we don't have people waiting in the hallway waiting to get in. So continuing with summary and name, the summary. So if you tick summary on a form, that is going to display the value either on the document list if it's a document form, on the contact list if it's a contact form, on the topics list if it's a document topics form, and then if it's in the document list, it also appears on the document registration list and the download file that you can get when you're on that document registration list. Okay, so this is where, if you tick summary, this is what's going to happen here in the different places. And the name displays the values either on external forms, if it's a process step form, or on the document registration list and download if the name is selected for document forms, and finally on the contact list for the name as well, that appears. And that's the list when you go and do a booking and you select what student you want to link the document to. That's usually for repeat bookings when customers come back to you again. So here's some examples. You can see here, this is the form that we're editing, and we've ticked summary, and because we've ticked summary, these are the fields that are coming up. So this is for the first name, so you can tell we've got the first name coming up here in each case. So we can predict, therefore, that we've got a few other fields ticked on this particular form. I predict we've got the surname ticked, we've got the phone number ticked, we've got the email, and down the bottom here we've got the USI summary ticked as well. And so the USI summary field tells us what the result was of the USI verification. So now here's an example of what happens if you tick the name field, particularly on a process step form. So if you tick the name field for the client first name, you're going to end up having the first name appear here when the student maybe goes and completes a feedback form or an assessment form. And this is where this information appears here to inform the customer that when they've clicked on the link that this is actually the form that they'll be completing. Okay. And of course it appears on the registration list too. So on the registration list, if you tick summary and name, then you're going to get that information appeared if you've chosen a summary. In this case, we're displaying the summary on the registration list. And you can see here we've got details of the customer. And I can assure you that there are other fields on this form ticked. And this is on the document form, namely things like the first name, last name, phone number, email, and again that USI status field as well. How does that sound so far, Namgay? Anything I've missed there or any questions that you've got?
No, at the moment. Because I haven't used these ones. I feel like I haven't done any like babysitting list or anything like that. The only thing that I've been doing is just the basics which we have access to at the moment. So I'm just trying to get familiar with the basics.
It sounds like you're just getting up to speed with working out what's in there. Okay, cool. Okay, so the naming guidance. So that's the first tip. This is the second tip. This tip now is about how to name your fields within course sales. So if you can name your fields consistently, then it makes it much easier when you go back and you have a look at your records and work out what records are where and what you need to how to track basically maybe what's gone wrong or what's not working quite as you expect. So name management is going to make your life easier. And these are guidances, not rules. So that is to say, there are definitely reasons why you'd want to deviate from this guidance, and there are often reasons why you might want to do things differently. So we use common names in these cases. Okay, so when we're using process rules, process steps, and PDFs and email templates, we try and keep a consistent name across all of those records. So we might use the same name for process step, the same name for the process rule, and the same name for the email as well. And that just keeps consistency so you know what you've got to edit and you can easily go and make those adjustments. Because who's to know within 6 months whether you remember the name that you've given to something if you don't keep those consistent. When it comes to naming your masters, your formats, your course descriptions, and your categories, I encourage you to keep that naming convention consistent as well, so that basically the same name is used across the board there. Makes things much easier to manage. And then topics, course modules, and topic descriptions. Again, these are items that we try and maintain the same names. I'm going to be showing you some examples too. So here's an example of the rule. So here's a process rule. We've got the name is invitation to register. You can see that the process step is also invitation to register, and the email is invitation to register. So the idea there is trying to make all of that naming convention consistent. Here's an example in masters. So you can see in the master, we've got the name of the master being Diploma of Accounting with the diploma's ID at the beginning. We've got the same when it comes to course category and the course description and over here in the course format. So we get the naming convention the same across all of them, and it just makes your life a bit easier. And here's the final example. We've got the topic name being consistent with the topic description and with the module name. And so what I in fact do is I select my module first, and then I copy that into the topic description and select that, and then copy it into the topic name. And so it's a really easy way of doing it. You don't have to type all of this stuff out. This already exists in the module, so why not copy and paste it into the other fields?
So just in case there's a change in the name, topic name.
So I'm finding it hard to hear you, Namgay. I think the microphone's a bit tricky. I don't know if it's far away from you or...
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can. It's just a little bit muffled. But you try. You could talk to me and I'll see what I can do.
Yeah. Is that better?
Yeah. Do you want to... How about do you want to type your message into the chat and then it'll be easier. I just don't want to miss what you've got to say because it's important that I understand exactly what you need. So I'm happy to wait for you to type that in if you wish. Have to talk to Rob about getting you a better headset, eh? That'll make things make life easier. I use just my headset from my phone. That works quite well, but I do have a bit of a flash microphone over here that we're using today to be able to get some good quality sound. Good question. So if you need to change the topic name, would the description and course module change automatically?
Yeah.
It doesn't. No. Having said that, if you change the module here, then you will. If you went and changed the module, then the module name would change here. That's fine, but it won't then update your topic name and your topic description automatically. You will have to go in and make those adjustments. And that can be quite useful actually, because that I've often found that when we've been doing troubleshooting, particularly when it comes to these formats, because they can get quite complex when there are lots of units of competence in there. When I've been able to spot discrepancies between them, so I've looked at the topic name and it doesn't match the module name, and I've realized that actually that's the wrong module that's being connected to it. Someone's adjusted the name, but they've actually just completely created a new unit of competency on there, which is not the one that should be on there. So it's actually really useful that it doesn't automatically update, because it's a good double checking mechanism. So I recommend if you make any changes to course modules, go back into your formats and just check that everything's consistent. And you can see there actually how the name doesn't go across the whole space too. So just be aware, if you choose to modify the names and make the names a little bit different, like having, say, a suffix at the end or a prefix at the beginning. Prefixes will work better in this instance than suffixes, because you're not going to see them at the end of the name. Yeah, so just be aware of that. That's probably another good tip to keep in mind. Okay, so where the standard names cannot be maintained, suffix is better than prefix, although not in the case we just showed you. So suffix is usually better, just because then we're able to sort the information correctly. So you can see here below, I've got course categories, and I've got the same name consistently, and then I've got a suffix at the end of the names that distinguishes between each of those. Now there is a problem there, and that is that often makes it very wide. And like I said, it doesn't appear in those drop downs so well, but it does make it easier from the point of view of seeing the consistent name and sorting that information clearly. It also looks kind of neat as well. Now you can use something called include in name for options, which we talked about yesterday. And that's a really useful way of being able to distinguish between groups of these items, particularly if they're created in the options area. And changing the order on the options, you can basically change them around. So you can move them in here. So if you move this item up to the top, in here it would appear at the top. So it's a great way of keeping things arranged as well. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one. Any other questions there about naming conventions? No? You're cool? No. Okay, great. So I'm going to talk about the status flags. This is when you're looking at a document list, and the status flag there actually is quite helpful. If you click on that status flag, this is the window that appears, and that allows you to quickly update the process step. So rather than opening the document and then going back and then opening up the next document, if you click on the status display within the list, you can see the list at the back here. Within the list, you can actually then just quickly apply a new step, which is pretty handy. It's a quick way to update many documents. And I've got another presentation if we have time. I'll give you, which is about how to process lots of documents all at once. It's a bulk document update, which is pretty handy too.
Yeah.
So here's some other quick tips. Just keep in mind that when you log into your course sales entity, you can put /login is the best way to log in. Okay, so not just, in my case, I use cs.coursesales.com, but I use cs.coursesales.com/login when I want to log in. So if you're going to bookmark a page, that's the page to bookmark. And what's particularly useful when using public pages and portals is using a new tab. So using different tabs and using the incognito tab as well. That's a pretty helpful way of doing that. And I also recommend you use a password manager like lastpass.com or keypass.com, one of those password managers that manages all of your passwords. But just be aware when you add a new user, sometimes your password can therefore go into those password areas when you're adding a new user or editing a user. Nothing worse than updating users' details to use your password, because things will get quite confusing then. So here's some browser tips. We recommend you use the new private window. Okay, so the new private window allows you, like I say, to work with public and portal pages. So what that does is that gives you effectively its own environment where you can look at pages completely separate to the administration area. Because what happens if you look at a public page or you look at a portal page, it could log you out of your administration page, which can be a bit frustrating. So there's some different browsers. This is in Opera, I think it's called Opera. Not Oprah. She's the one who talks to royals. This is Firefox, and then this is in Chrome. So they're called different things. Private window, incognito window is the other name. So here's another browser tip. Hold down Control and click on links. Okay, this is really useful for wanting to edit an embedded record. So if records are within a page and you see a link there that allows you to edit it and you want to edit it in a new page, you can hold Control, click on the link, and it'll open it up completely in a new tab, which is really handy. And there's an animation down below here that shows you how to do this. So in this instance, we're opening up all the different records that we're going to use to create a course master. So we're going to create a course master, but we want to create a format. So we're going to open a new tab for a format. So while we're editing the course master, we're creating all these. That's a new tab, a new bit of content, say a course description. And then we're going to open up options as well. You see, so we can, holding Control and clicking on the link will open up a new tab, which is really useful.
Okay, so you can work on two pages?
That's right. You can work on two things at once. You can basically be logged in twice and then edit two different things, which is pretty handy.
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind the ribbon, that's the navigation area at the top, is context sensitive. So what that means is that when you're viewing a particular record or editing a record, the menu has these auto links that go directly to other records that are relevant to what you're currently editing. So if you're editing a master record, you can automatically go to the format, to the content, course description, to the path, to the form, the document topic form, currency, payment, etc. So there's all these items that you can go directly to just by clicking on an edit link within the context-sensitive ribbon, which is a pretty cool way. And it becomes even more useful when you get down to course date. You can immediately go to the event or to the master, or when you're editing a document, you can go straight to the course date just by clicking on the edit link, which is in the menu options. And you can also go to the contact as well for that particular document. So again, a really quick way of moving around course sales. And here's an example. So if I'm visiting a document, you can see here I'm able to edit the course date under the courses menu. Under the context menu, I can immediately view or edit the contact. Under the publish menu, I can edit the master, I can edit the format, I can edit the content goes directly to the course description of the course date. And I can edit the venue as well, because when you're linked to a document, that document's an enrollment into a particular course. So we know the venue, we know the format that's been applied, all those things. So it's a really quick way of moving around. And then finally down here, we can even go and have a look at a particular path, and we can have a look at a particular step as well, which is pretty handy. So this is just a way of navigating around course sales nice and quickly. Now this is a useful tip if you want to just have a particular field shown for some courses when a student is completing a form, but not for other courses. So it gathers data on a field only when it is that category. So some examples are if you want to gather evidence of identity for some particular courses, or you need to get a license number for some particular courses. So what you do is you set up this here. It says show only for course category. You click on the lightning bolt and you'll get a list of the different course categories, and those course categories, or rather you choose one of those, and then that field will only display for that particular course category. So yeah, if you have I don't know if you do any courses where you might require a license or an upload of information where it's not required for the other courses.
Sorry, what was that?
Do you require, say, a license identifier? Sometimes, for example, if one of the courses I know that requires a license is the white card, for example. Sometimes it's useful to have the white card license if someone's doing a renewal. So if someone's going to do a renewal, then we can have the license appear just when they're doing a renewal, which is quite helpful. Okay, we've got a quiz. Now the great thing in AMGA is that no matter what you answer, you're going to win. Okay, so so if a phone number field on a contact form is checked, where would we expect it to appear? Now that means if the summary on the contact form is ticked.
Document list?
On the contact form, it's going to appear on the contact list. Yeah, exactly, on the contact list. Now, if you wanted the payment method to appear in the document list, which of the following is the best option? Should you check the summary checkbox on the document form? Should you check the name checkbox on the document form? Or should you check both the name and the summary checkbox on the document form?
Summary?
Yeah, summary, that's right. So you click on summary and then it's going to appear on that form, which is kind of helpful.
Basically, when you check summary, it's going to show all the information.
Sorry, say that again. Or do you want to type that in? I can't quite hear what you're saying. If you check this, so your question is, does checking summary show all the basic information? Checking summary will only show the information for the particular field that you've checked summary for. So each field has an option to tick summary. So if you wanted just the first name and the last name, you could tick summary on just the first name and the last name. If you wanted to include the phone number, you can choose the phone number. And then there's a whole lot of it. I know some people who even select the payment method because they need to know what payment method has been selected by the customer just when they're looking at the document list. So when you're editing a document, which would you not have automatically linked in the ribbon menu? So if you're clicking on the document,
is that the course date?
Yeah, you can definitely get to the course date. And you can definitely get to the contact. It's actually this one up there, the document topic form. So what it links to is the document form, but not the document topic form, because the document topic form is related to the course master. But we think that if you're editing a document, you'd probably want to go to the document form if you wanted to change something. So
the document topic form is the second one.
It says, the tick goes beside format, but of course that's wrong. Okay, so don't think that's right. let's change that now because we don't want to accidentally get that wrong in the future, do we? So cool, comes up right now. Okay, to open a new tab in a browser, which instructions will do this? Should we click twice quickly? Should we hold the control down while you click the link? Should we right click, press control key, then left click, then wink? Or should we hold control, alt, and delete?
Hold control while you click the link.
Yeah, hold that. It's hold control, the control key, while you click the link. Yep. Okay, so here's another quiz question. So when the course category is that number, managed security, which of these examples follow a recommended guidance for a course master name? So you can see here, this has got the name and then latest after it.
Yeah.
This has got latest and then the name. And this has got the ID and then some other description of this is the latest for managed security. And then the final one is a different ID altogether. Yeah, so it's definitely, yeah, it's A, that's right. So so we want to use suffixes rather than prefixes. And we definitely don't want to do things like put a whole lot of words inside it and then have a different name altogether. That would be terrible if we actually had a different ID. That would not be great. Okay, so an activity to do for you is you can do this at your leisure. Open a document. Now open the contact quickly using that context-sensitive ribbon. Okay, so I would just want you to imagine going in there, opening up a document, and then going to contact and seeing you can actually open up the contact for that particular student. Okay, and then an advanced option is to add some additional field values to the document list and the contact list. Remember to publish the forms. Okay, so I want you to add some tick summary basically on some of those extra fields, which would be helpful. There's some resources for password managers that might be helpful.